Young, Black, and Latinx classical string players are going to compete in the 23rd annual Sphinx competition in early February. The Detroit-based Sphinx Organization uses the power of diversity in the arts to change lives. Kamyron Williams is an intern at Sphinx and a really talented cellist. I'm really pleased to have him here today for a special performance. Fantastic. Joining me now from the Sphinx Organization is Laura McNary. She is the manager of institutional partnerships. Hi. Welcome back to the show, right?
Thank you.
We do this every year.
Yes.
So 23 years of the Sphinx competition. That's a long time.
Yes, we are very excited to be back and be back at the DSO and in the Detroit community and really just offering an opportunity to create diverse audiences and create opportunities for the competitors. So it's an exciting time. So
I know that we do this show each year and we talk about the importance of diversity in music and classical music in particular. But I always think it's worth reminding people that the diversity we see in classical music today owes a lot of what it is to Sphinx and this competition. And the 23 years you guys have really been encouraging young people of color to do this.
Yes, so it was founded, like you said, 23 years ago by Aaron Dworkin, and at the time he didn't see himself in his colleagues on stage and in the music schools. And over the past 23 years, we've been able to increase the number of Black and Latinx classical musicians across the world's orchestra stages by about 4 or 5%.
Yeah.
It's not a very large increase, but it is a very substantial increase.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's just there was almost nothing
Yes.
before. I mean, and it's hard to imagine that just 23 years ago, you could go to a symphony concert and see nobody of color on stage
Exactly.
in most major cities, and that now you're starting to see people who are doing it.
Yes, and we're starting to see a buy-in from the nation's major orchestras. Running currently with the Sphinx competition is Sphinx Connect, which is the epicenter of arts, and we really work to tackle the issues of diversity, inclusion, and equity in the arts. This year, I believe we'll be welcoming over 800 musicians, arts leaders, arts organizations, arts administrators, and fellows to Detroit, to really tackle that issue head on and create opportunities for musicians of color.
Yeah, greater diversity, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So we're now joined by Kamyron. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much.
That was a beautiful piece. Tell us about the piece that you played first.
It was the prelude from the second cello suite by Bach in D minor.
I could tell it was Bach. I didn't know quite which one it was. I have to say that the cello is probably my favorite instrument in the orchestra, partially because I was a former tuba player, and it's kind of the bottom, right? The same, but it has such a beautiful voice across such a range. I mean, people think of the bottom and the way that it can sort of hold up that end of music, but it has such sweet tones at the top as well, and I've always really been attracted to that. Talk to me about how you came to want to play the cello.
So for me, it kind of started in the public school system back in Florida. I had a friend who was a year older than me. He was a neighborhood friend. He was already in orchestra, and he was like, "Hey man, like, if you join orchestra, we have class together." And I was like,
"Okay,
right, let's do it." So fast forward, I'm in orchestra, and I think it's like the first or second day, and the orchestra director's trying to like choose, like, all right, who should do this? And the orchestra director looks at me, Sandy Neal, and you're a big kid. I was a lot bigger back then. I think you should play the cello. And I was like, okay, sure.
Okay.
So kind of went with it, and I mean, I just immediately, I guess, fell in love with it. And just, natural talent took me so far, and I was very fortunate to have a very good middle school director who introduced me to the Performing Arts High School, and I was able to go to Performing Arts High School, Blake High School in Tampa, Florida, and then my orchestra director there, Jason Gerald, opened up another door for me. I was able to study with a cello professor at Stetson University, David Biella, and then one thing just led to another, and then ended up in the Midwest, in Indiana. Then after Indiana, ended up in Michigan.
So tell me how you felt as an African American male playing the cello in the orchestra. It's not the thing that you see a lot of other African American men doing. But were there other kids of color involved that way? And did you feel as though there were barriers, I guess, to your success there?
I would say when I first started, it was definitely noticeable that I was the only person of color in the orchestra. But I wouldn't say it deterred me or anything. I would say it was more of like a motivator, and also a way of like, oh, like I should really lead by example and show that like I'm just like everyone else. And when I first started, it was just having fun, enjoying, and playing music, and that's what it was all about. So that's how it was for me.
What about the university level?
University level?
Was it more diverse or less diverse?
Becoming more diverse.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah. Obviously, Kamyron's a great example of exactly what you guys are working on. But you've got so many people now, I think you can hold up as great examples.
Yes. Over the past 23 years, we've been able to establish a network of over 800 Black and Latinx musicians, and really show the world stage that the talent is there. You just have to pay attention to people like Kamyron who are in these programs and competing at a very high level, but are oftentimes overlooked. So
Kamyron, I want to talk to you about career, because I think that's one of the things that anybody who's involved in arts has to kind of think about. The business is changing. There are fewer opportunities for everybody
Right.
than there used to be. But when you think about your career and opportunities, what do you see?
Right. For me, I mean, obviously cello will definitely be the forefront, but I definitely see it in a way of being able to do multiple roles. In a way for me that I kind of call that kind of being like a 360 musician, being able to play, being able to curate things, and also be able to work in an administrative capacity and things like that. So being able to wear multiple hats is kind of the way I'm going, and I think that's, at least for me, that's kind of how I see it being the most rewarding in a way. Yeah.
And is that opportunity presenting itself through Sphinx or through
Yeah,
other
I mean,
things?
as soon as I moved to Michigan in 2016, that's when I kind of got involved with Sphinx. I had a friend, and he was like, hey, I think you should really try and get involved in some type of capacity. So I was like, all right, great.
Yeah.
And I worked as a liaison for the Sphinx Connect, and worked as a liaison. I was like, okay, like kind of getting my feet. And within admin, I was like, all right, I can kind of dabble in this. And then things led to another. I was able to use some of the other artistic resources like the National Audition Alliance Support Intensive. I participated in the SOPA auditions. Those have opened up plenty of doors artistically. And then now working in an administrative role as working audience development for the finalist concert.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah. Well, congratulations on 23 years.
Thank
It's such
you.
a big deal. And I'm such a big fan of Aaron's. I always was. So.
Yes, he'll actually be our guest artist this year.
Oh, very good.
Doing the Detroit premiere of his spoken word multimedia work, American Rhapsody. So we're very,
Wow.
very excited.
That's very cool. Yeah. Congratulations.